This podcast is a proud member of the Unidentified Network.
Police in Las Vegas found themselves in the middle of a UFO mystery last month after
To us, big eyes. They have big eyes.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal? Or?
One of my partners said they saw something fall out of the sky too, so that's why I'm kind of curious.
What sign? I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Okay, hang on.
He's right.
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, he's good. He's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
Mythical Legends Podcast with your host Daniel Barnett.
And we're back with the Mythical Legends Podcast. So glad to be back for this one. And we have our amazing co-host, Chris Alsford. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I am very, very well. And a little bit warm here today, which is a change for the UK, would you say?
It's it's nice to have a bit of warmth in the summer for a change.
So we are back to talk Bigfoot with you guys today, and we have a very, very good friend of mine and funny guest we have today. Would you agree on that, Chris?
Absolutely, yeah.
So we have some very, very interesting topics to talk to him about today. So let's bring him on and let's have some fun. So please welcome to the stage, Adam Davies, I think.
Hello. Daniel.
How are you, buddy? How's things?
Very good. It's 95 here. So what would that be? 33 to 35 here in Tennessee right now, and it's humid and hot. So I originally come from Manchester, and if it had been 95 there would be a state of emergency declared, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Especially with the rain. So I went to live in San Diego when I first came to the US, which was 8.5 years ago. And it didn't rain there for 6 months. 6 months. And leave from Manchester, it rains all the time. I was like, oh, my gosh. And I nearly had a trauma. When it rained the first time, I actually took my shoes and socks off and walked about barefoot. It's not rain. It's funny what you miss, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So, Adam, mate, we are so glad to have you on the podcast today. Now, before we go any further and we go into the podcast, I have to go back to a couple of weeks ago, and to everyone out there, myself and Adam met up at the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference. We had a bit of a laugh, didn't we, Adam? How was it for you?
It was great. It will be the closest I will ever be to being a rock star in the sense. So as just before we were about to go on, RPG puts on "Welcome to the Jungle," the Guns N' Roses thing, and we go on, and people who were in Britain may not realize there were 2,500 people there. So when you go on stage, as you did and as I did, there's big screens of you as well. So even if they're not physically in the audience, there's 100-foot high Daniel or whatever it was, and 100-foot high Adam, and then they're talking. I remember going on stage, walking on that one, because I've done quite a few of these conferences, but that's the biggest crowd you'll ever get at these things. I remember thinking, it's me entertaining all these people for an hour. Off we go, So it's quite daunting when you first work on stage, and you did really well. But when you go on stage and then afterwards you have a real high from it. So that was a sort of almost like a rock star moment in a way, just because of the crowd and the way the setup is. Nobody had to suffer my singing, so it wasn't that. But it's good.
Oh, good. Chris, you missed out on a big thing there because it was
Wait.
funny and it was great.
Did you sing?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Just checking.
No.
Probably I missed it then. Yeah, sorry about that.
And of course, the night before there was the VIP event, which you enjoyed as well, didn't you, Daniel?
No, I think you enjoyed it, Adam.
So just so everyone knows, before some of the bigger events, there's a VIP dinner with people who've they have dinner, they meet the people who are speaking. So me and Daniel and Matt, Ken, Russ, and Renee, and of course RPG. Those are all the people who were there, and they come on stage as well, and they can have the photo taken with them, and all those sort of things. And that was fun, wasn't it, Daniel?
It looks like it.
Yes, Adam, it was.
Yeah. So there we are. So there was two things.
It was fun meeting all the VIPs there. Let's just say that Adam misbehaved himself so much that he made myself, Russell Acord, everyone else laugh because he was misbehaving himself.
Well, it got me through, and anything I can do to irritate Russ Acord, I'm up for. So there we are. Renee's terribly sweet. I think one of the things I'd say though, about characters and people who do, I don't know, TV shows or podcasts or anything else like that, who get reasonably well known. So because of all of the people at the Florida thing were reasonably well known in different ways, is people expect them to be one-dimensional. So they expect them to be the personality that they are on TV, but they're only seeing, that's maybe their role in the show, and they're only seeing things like that.
Yeah.
So Renee, for example, when you meet her, is a very warm, open person who's very much into nature and really quite spiritual.
Mhm.
But her role on the show is to be a skeptic. So people immediately assume that she's going to be cynical.
Yeah.
When in fact, she's one of the least cynical people you will ever meet.
She's lovely.
Yeah. But all of those, she's very empathic. She's all of those things are sensitive. That her role on the show, because it's one-dimensional, does not put forward. And I think it's a useful point to make. So, for example, many years ago, I was making some of the Monster Quest shows. And on some parts of that show, it was my job to explain what we were looking for and how we were going to work it, particularly on the Abominable Snowman situation, where some of it was quite dangerous. So I had to be focused because, you know, that's the situation when you're climbing mountains in the Alps. So, but people who come up to me say, "Oh, we expected you to be very serious." Well, anyone who knows me said I can't be serious for more than 2 minutes, unless it's danger or I've got to do something. But that's how they saw me. So, you know, what I'd say about to people is, you see one facet of somebody's personality. Don't necessarily judge how they are from that, because they can be very different. And Renee's a really good example of somebody who is nothing like her TV persona. It's not that she's acting; she's just got that role in the show, and that's the information she's getting across.
Yeah, and say it was 2 days to remember, because it was.
I'm glad you had a good time.
It was amazing. Yeah,
and I know Nicky and Martin who organise it. They're really nice people, genuinely lovely people. They only live down the road from me. They live about 20 minutes away.
Oh wow!
Yeah, but they are very, 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 very nice people, and you know they're conscious that they want you to have a good time. So yeah. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm sure you'll do other things in the future, but that was that's one of the biggest ones in the US, if not probably the biggest in terms of head count for the event. The Ohio Bigfoot Conference, it's always full, but it can only take a hall of about 400 to 600 people. I'm not exactly sure. It has 4,000 people at the flea market at the back, but in terms of an actual event, in terms of audience, I think that's the largest. Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, it was a day to remember, and it was fun hanging out with you on the stage, Adam. I'm gonna move on now, and I'm gonna go straight into kind of your Bigfoot life. I'm gonna say,
Okay.
and I'm going to jump in, and Chris, feel free to jump in at any point here. Is So, what was your inspiration, Adam, for writing your books? Because I know when I met you, I saw a range of books. So, what was your inspiration for writing?
Well, it's different for the fiction and the non-fiction. So let's deal with the non-fiction first, because that's what I started with. So I had done my first degree was in history before I did a postgrad in law, and that's relevant to what I was thinking. And what I was thinking is, I'm doing all these expeditions, and some of them are very unique. For example, to the Congo, to crossing the Lakula Basin and places like that. Nobody does that, or in history, very few people. And if I don't write about them, they'll be lost forever once I'm gone. If I do write about them, at least people can read and think what I felt and thought at the time. I mean, these books don't make a lot of money, Daniel. I mean, I'm not going to be sat there in a castle like J.K. Rowling, often put it like that. You know what I'm saying? It's really, but it's really about. I wanted to record, but what I wanted to record at the time, I'd read expedition books, and sometimes the diaries are like, well. Day 56, I contemplated the delicate hue of the leaf in front of my face. Like, I wasn't feeling that, Daniel. And Chris, I was not feeling that. It's like day 56. I'm in pain. It hurts. Yeah. I'm hungry. I want to have a laugh. That was how I felt. Yeah. I thought, I'm not one of these superhuman people. So I wrote the expedition books. I forced myself to write, if you know what I mean, because it was important. And as I got easier, because there were 3 of them, I'll probably do a new one next year. Each one takes a long time to write. So each one on average spans about 10 years, because I want to make sure, on expeditions, it's not like the TV show. Not much happens 999 times out of 1,000 days I go out, not much happens. I got a bit wet, or, I saw a squirrel. Nothing exciting. So what I want to do with those books is condense, so that the reader has the important and or exciting bits. So it takes a long time. The fiction books, I wrote the first one, The Revenge of the Hairy Man, because I had long COVID and I was struggling to repair my brain in a way, yeah. And I was also horrified that after leaving school, most people don't pick up a book. I was like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Because I love books. I can see Chris has got lots of books behind him. And yeah, I love that, you see. See, my flat back in England, before I lived there, was like a library. I had books everywhere. And I actually find them easier to write because it just comes from my mind. But I have to be in the mood for it. You know what I mean? It can't like sit down and write. I have to just feel like I want to write it. So they're different things with using different disciplines of my mind.
So that sounds really interesting, and kind of it's come from a very different perspective, because a lot of people go, oh, I'm going to write a book about a certain topic, or do kind of write a book about their expedition that then is like every day, as you just said, and saying that's very, very interesting. And your book is next on my pile to have a look through.
Well, I hope you enjoy it. Like those are the Extreme Expedition series, those 3, 1, 2, and 3. And I think mentally you'll be a little bit like me in the sense that what you remember is the banter people had, yeah, that rapport, those sort of things, that those moments, and that's what I think people should get across in their books: the real life, how people are, rather than any sort of artificial padding of nature. That isn't what I want to do. So it's different, but I think it's important. I never wanted to write a book about a particular cryptid topic. Other people do that, and good luck to them, and that's what they want to do. I just wanted to write on my expedition books about me first, in the first person, what I felt and thought, and I've carried that on. I mean, each time I do something Bigfoot related or other creature related, I'll write bullet point notes. This is useful for you in the field if you ever want to do this. I'll write bullet point notes at the time, not like loads of chapters. You haven't got time to do that. You're exhausted. But each day I'll write down the main points of that day, like 6 or 7 sentences at the end of a night. And then that'll jog my memory. And then as soon as I can, I'll write that chapter up after I get home. So something very profound happened to me in March, Bigfoot related, which I should tell you about. So make sure we get to that before I leave, because I want to tell you that story. You'll be interested. And then when I came back at the end of that sequence, that film, I wrote the notes down to it so that I remember them fresh in my mind. It's not a good idea to try and go back 5 or 6 years later and try and write it. You kind of need to discipline yourself, write the notes at the time, and come back and write the chapter. And that's what I do.
That's good.
Sounds like a very efficient way of doing things, Adam. And to be completely honest, I might take that up. I might actually, because
it's really good way to do it.
That's a really efficient way of doing things. So I have to ask now. And we always go down a rabbit hole on these podcasts. We never actually stay on to what I want to ask.
You can ask me anything you want.
Let's go on to that. What happened in March?
Well, the reason I thought that was important is because obviously I've looked for unknown species all over the world. But when we're looking at films, evidence of Bigfoot on the films is quite rare, yeah? Of anything substantive on any of these shows. So I was going to go, I've always been interested in an area called Land Between the Lakes, which is quite large. It's about 56 miles long, I think, on the border of Kentucky and Tennessee. So on the eastern part of the US, the South, basically. And I was talking to a friend of mine when I was in Texas, Greg Ogles, and he said, "Oh, we're going to make a film there. We're going to do some filming in the Land Between the Lakes in March. Would you like to come?" I said, "Absolutely. I'll be in the film, blah, blah, blah." We worked that out. And then he's got a friend called Brent, and he was just up for a couple of Emmys. He's a really good photographer and film guy. And Janice, who's very tough, outdoorsy lady. And they were going to be his film crew. So we went down to the Land Between the Lakes. And me and Greg got there first, and we just did a bit of scouting, and it all went well. And we met up with this guy called Barton, who's going to be in the film, and Martin Grove, some of the locals who were out there. Super nice guys. We chatted to them. And Brent got some really good drone shots just on a sunset, really picturesque. So I really liked them. And we were happy, it was a nice little start to the filming, a few days of investigations, interviews, blah, blah, blah. And I said then to Martin, I said, we want to do a night sequence tonight, obviously because Barton and I are going out investigating. I said, do you know of anywhere good? And he said, well, there's an area a long way away, comparatively speaking, about an hour or so. He said, but we can go there. There's a lot of, I said, I want a lot of Bigfoot activity. Sorry, before then. And he said, well, that's the place then, this place. So we go over there, and my expectations are very low because, as I said to you offline, 999 times out of 1,000, if not more, nothing happens. Nothing happens. It's the way it should be. You should be inherently suspicious of anybody who says that every time they go out, they see a Bigfoot. There's a Bigfoot there. There he is. Be very suspicious, because that's not going to be likely, at all. So I always go into these things thinking that there's very little chance, but might as well go. It's atmospheric, and it is indeed atmospheric. There's lots of graveyards in the land between the lakes, and this one's on the side of a hill. It's very, very atmospheric. So we're there at night. We get out our stuff, and Martin and Barton go up the hill on the side of the graveyard area with Janice, and me and Greg and Brent are down below helping to get out the bigger cameras, like that. All of a sudden, it kicks off. Now, I can't emulate the noise it made, but it was the weirdest, and you hear this like this massive roar. Now, I've seen gorillas in the wild. You could tell it was something with a big chest cavity. You know what I mean? You could tell. I've seen and heard the great apes, orangs, blah, blah, blah. I've seen them. I've seen these creatures in different parts of the world all over. So you could hear this thing. And it was really close to us. I mean, like super, 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 super close. Less than 20 feet. And Brent freaks out, God bless him. I mean, I understand why, but he freaks out. And he's like, we've got to get out of here to Greg. And me and Greg are like, in synopsis, no, we don't want to make one of these films like, in all these cheesy damn ghost shows, like somebody walks up and like they hear something and then everyone goes, we got to get out of here. And it's like, no, that's the good bit. No, don't get out of there. Yeah, if you're going to get eaten, but let's see it. It makes good TV. So we were like, so we stayed, and I walked forward, and then it was kicking off again, and they've got a lot of these screams and growls and other things, this interaction that I've got with this thing, and you could see Greg saw one hiding behind a car, and it starts throwing branches and sticks at us. They were flanking us. So what they showed intelligence, which I found really interesting, in the sense that there was one at the front which was drawing our attention, but the one at the side was throwing things at us, and there were a couple behind us up the hill. I mean, essentially, it was. So I shouted to everyone that they needed to get together, because at that point I thought we were in real danger. I mean, our positions were exposed. We were not together. And that the thing was coming in from the side. It was dangerous. And when I called everyone together, that was when the things backed off. It's fascinating.
Wow.
But the interesting thing about it is, we've got that on film. And the next thing happened that isn't connected with that, isn't in any way connected. So we went back again to that area, but that's all in the film, and you'll see what happened then. But on the last night, Greg had paid a lot of money, many thousands of dollars in permits to film that. And I said to him, well, the permit's running out. Why don't we go to this graveyard area, which is nowhere near this area? It was near where we were camping. Just see if we can get anything on film, yeah? So it's nothing to do with the Bigfoot thing. It's a separate thing. And we go to this graveyard, and I'm with Janice, and Janice has got one of those cameras, that can see colour. And I saw these 4 blue orbs shoot up, yeah? Now, sometimes orbs can be dust particles. They really can. But these were the size of your fist. These were big. And I said to Janice, and I'm talking about them, and I thought I'm not like a nutcase talking about these things, I said, please tell me, Janice, you've got this on camera. And she's like, yes, we've got it on camera. Yeah? So what you've got is 2 separate but very fascinating pieces of evidence of stuff, which will make for a great film. So I'm glad for Greg. Before, I'm not getting any money for promoting it. I just think you should watch it because it's going to be interesting. I just think it's a good film. So before that, Greg had a really tough time leading up to that, and he's an independent producer. He hasn't got oodles of money, and he had some really good fortune here. So I'm glad for him. He'll make a great film that'll come out in December. But I'll let you know when it comes out, because I can't wait to watch it. It's going to be exciting. Really exciting.
Sounds really good.
Yeah, it should be good. Really good.
No, we'll promote it on the Facebook page.
Yeah, if you want to, it would help. It would help him. But you'll enjoy it. You'll enjoy it. I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
So judged by that, it's it sounds really
Yeah,
interesting.
I'm looking forward to that now. Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
worth it. I mean, and again, I want to set the context for people. So I have researched now, looking for Bigfoot type things in half the states of the US, yeah, including Alaska 2 or 3 times now. But in most of those places, only in some, most of those places, in all that time, in 8.5 years when I've not been working, I can only think of about 3 or 4 incidents where I've thought it might be something Bigfoot related. So let's put it in context. You know, it doesn't happen all the time. Yeah. And most of the time I'll go somewhere, I spend a week or 2 there, and nothing will happen of any substantive value that I'm interested in enough. But that was truly remarkable. It ranks up there as one of the top incidents of my life.
Wow. So then that leads me on to then, what do you believe Bigfoot is flesh and blood, or do you think it's supernatural? What's your...
Well, let me start by saying the most important answer to your question is I don't know. And the reason I don't know is because nobody knows, and anybody who tells you with any degree of certainty is deluded or a fraud. It's as simple as that. Because we don't know. We don't have a specimen. So everything is then becomes hypothesis based on reasonable conjecture. Yeah. So let's start with that, right? So don't know. What is it? Well, it's physical in some ways. It has to be, because it leaves footprints. It eats. Yeah. It seems to have young. So all of those things would say it's physical. It has to be physical in some ways, because look at all these casts. So it's physical. In terms of its abilities, well, I would say it shows a degree of sentience, of high level sentience, which is very interesting, and that's the most interesting question to me. What are its abilities and what are its sentience level? So how intelligent is it? Well, you saw in that exercise I was just telling you, for example, it was flanking me, yeah, or flanking my group, yeah, with Greg and Brent and all of those. That was tactical, strategic behavior, which I personally observed, which was, I remember saying at the time, it's flanking us, in a military-like operation. It was fascinating to see. So I think they're very intelligent. You have to remember, I mean, if they had, and I've really got far more I don't knows than knows here, so that you see that sort of intelligent behavior. Conversely, you don't see fire, or you don't see tools, things like that. You don't see evidence of those. So does that mean they're much less intelligent than us? Well, if they had to survive, they'd have to undergo, and they had fire previously, they'd have to undergo a cultural regression. Because quite frankly, if they started to set fires out to cook things, they would have been eliminated by hunters 50 years, even 100 years ago. Because, I was in Mongolia once, in the middle of a plains, and I worked out that I was 50 miles from anywhere. It was just me, my driver, and my translator. We were in a very remote area, but if I'd seen a fire in the distance, I would have gone to it. Why? Because it's like nobody's supposed to be there. So they would have been wiped out. So I don't, that's the big question that I'm really interested in. They're not a ghost. They have physical evidence. Yeah. I don't know what abilities they have. I know the physical, and I don't know what level of intelligence they have. And that's for me, the thing that interests me most. How smart are they?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting look at it. And to be completely honest, I would 100% agree with you on that. Is no one actually knows factually what is.
No, and it's all speculation. And I've thought about it a lot because I have been blessed to see great apes in the wild. So, but people underestimate the intelligence of great apes. One of the things that I sometimes talk about is there's a gorilla called Coco. You can look this up. There's a gorilla called Coco, and she was in captivity. And there was one time when she pulled a sink off the wall, and she could sign. So the zookeeper signed to her, what happened, Coco? And Coco turns around and says, basically, blames it on her pet cat. It's the cat that did it,
Yeah.
So obviously it's not a sophisticated lie, but there's the fact that she's lying about it. You know what I mean? Demonstrating that behavior. I find very interesting. So you have to remember that. Orangs, for example, can understand over 200 words of sign. They're very intelligent. So I don't know. I mean, it depends what Bigfoot's related to as well. Some people speculate it's closer to Neanderthals. Well, if that's the case, Neanderthals had music, they mourned their dead, they painted art, they lived in family structures, they spoke, more like that. A higher nasal voice, we think, but they did. So where there's so many unknowns, you can't possibly have anything as to certainty about Bigfoot. Nothing.
Yeah, very true. I'll pass it over to you now, Chris.
Oh, Tar. Adam, one of your things you're most well known for is Port Chatham in 2021. And interest in the Alaska Killer Bigfoot TV show. I think that was part of Monster Quest, was it not? That was...
No, they're separate shows. So right. Monster Quest came out a good few years ago, and that stopped. Alaska Killer Bigfoot is a series I haven't seen, but that came out after I'd been to Port Chatham, and I'd been to Port Chatham twice before that show came out.
Yeah. So what was that's such an interesting... So the one thing about Port Chatham is if you have a skeptic, somebody who tells you that Bigfoot doesn't exist, what do they think happened in Port Chatham? Because to my mind, there's no alternative other than those guys were tangling with an aggressive Bigfoot, a territorial Bigfoot.
Well, I'll give you a long answer to that question, if I may. Yeah. So first of all, when I first went with Steve Major, because it was his idea to go, he funded it. It was like something out of one of those Stephen King movies, because literally we couldn't get anyone to take us. And eventually we found this one boat captain who would take us, like for $1,000 in and $1,000 out, because the rocks are very steep there. No one would go in it. And he was like, and he sounded like some sort of that captain off. Robert Duvall plays the captain in Jaws. He sounded to me a bit like him. He's like, "Oh, these are the clashing rocks, and this is Dead Man's Hole." That sort of guy. And I was thinking, "Oh man, this is freaky." And then we pulled up at this Native American village, and on the way there, you're in the boat. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. I have to look at my notes. But all the locals were like, "Well, didn't want to talk to us because it was this." And to the natives, it was regarded as the most evil place in the world. Some of them, yeah, or one of the most. So you have to be very respectful when you're thinking about this, and I think skeptics should be respectful of that, because whether you agree with beliefs or not, they are people's deeply held beliefs, and that's what they think. Yeah. So I wouldn't dismiss it all as rubbish. So even if I was skeptical about it, when you get over there. To when we got off the boat, I mean, basically the dude drops us off, me and Josiah and Stephen, and we went in there, and I made a camp. I wanted to make a camp on a spit of land because it was completely unknown, but there were also a lot of grizzlies around there, and I wanted to make sure this was the first time we went that we had observations at all sides, and I thought, well, the tides are high here, so at some point this place is easily defendable. If we have to shoot our way out, I was thinking, well, I could go on and on and on and on, but there's a lot of strategy to that. It's not simply, it was dangerous, because it was unknown. So when you get in there, there's a creepy vibe, certainly, but that can be cognitive priming. Sometimes if you go to an abandoned place where people are too scared to go and nobody will even speak to me about it, I'm bound to be a bit suspicious as I enter the creepy open raggedy ass barn. You know what I mean? Who wouldn't be? Yeah. So it's that. So what the skeptics would say is they would say, well, it was simply a product of economics, in the sense that there was a fishing cannery area there, and the fish stopped coming. It was not economically viable, so they moved, and somebody made up a story. What the locals believe, though, is that there was something to it. Regardless of the economics of the area, there is something very strange about Port Chatham. That's what the Native Americans think. And whether a Bigfoot killed people or not, I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there at the time. There's no historical records to suggest that, but people were afraid of something, I think, because there were extra security hired around it. So they were afraid of something. But I mean, I went there a couple of times, made a show with Discovery, and because that was a TV show, we had a bit more money, so we could stay on the boat. So that was quite nice. And because it's got this really weird microclimate, Port Chatham. So I was constantly looking at the weather reports the first time I went in of the nearest town, which is called Homer, but it has its own climate. So the first time I was there, it was brilliant sunshine, beautiful. Right. And the second time I was there, it rained really hard, constantly rained. So it's like a weather dumping place. It's an interesting place. But so it's creepy. I've got a little thing I found on the beach, which I've never shown anyone. And I found this really weird little, I don't know what it is. I showed it to an archaeologist and he wasn't sure. Thought it might be a tool of some kind. But it's very strange. I'll have to show you sometime. It's really interesting. Yeah, so that's what I think of Port Chatham, Chris.
Okay. The mystery deepens.
and say it's that what you just mentioned there, that tool. I'm really interested in there.
Yeah, I'll have to dig it out. I wasn't expecting a question on Port Chatham, so it's in the middle of stuff. I haven't got it to hand. It's in like a bag in a bag in a bag. So, but I've got it. I will show it you. Yeah, no problem.
So we surprise you everywhere, Adam.
Yes, you do, Daniel. Out of nowhere, you suddenly appear.
Well, what do I go with? I think let's go with this. Is since you are actually from the UK, Adam, I think let's ask you some questions about the UK. So,
oh no, I haven't been there for 8.5 years, Daniel. I have no clue what's happening in the UK. No clue.
So, what are your thoughts on UK Bigfoot? Now, I know that that's very kind of controversial, but when you were here, what are your thoughts?
Well, again, I'm going to sound ambiguous, and it's because I don't know. I went, Cliff. Let me say firstly, it's harder in the UK because it's a smaller island. So to have a sustainable group of Bigfoot which wouldn't have interbred with the local population is harder to make out. Yeah, and I'm going to put this in the politest possible terms. But males aren't always necessarily discerning, And what do I mean by that? Well, when I first started out, I did a National Geographic TV show called The Last Neanderthal, which was set in Mongolia. And on that, at the time, Dr. Dissertel went with the latest science. He was saying, there was no evidence that of any genetic link between us and Neanderthals. Yeah, we now know that's not the case. Science has improved, and in fact, for example, Chris could have up to 4% Neanderthal DNA.
Yeah, I'll show you a picture of my dad.
Exactly. He was showing me a picture of his dad before, and his dad had a hairy back. I wasn't going to ask about his mum, but his dad did. So what that means is. What that means is I've got him, Daniel, going.
Daniel's off.
Finally got him to crack. It's taken a while. I was leading into it just when he didn't expect it. So but what that means is that we bred with Neanderthals, you know. So and some of them look a bit like us, but some of them are ugly looking munters, but we still did it anyway because we're guys. So that's how it is. Neanderthal chick can't get a date through Neanderthal.com, just goes and grabs one of us because we don't care. So you've got that breeding going, and so I think it's difficult. But before I'd spoken to you, just before I left, Cliff Barrackman. He said there's a guy in Scotland called David. He said he'd seen one of these things. He said, do you want to go and have a look at it? So I spoke to the guy on the phone, and the guy was credible. I mean, he wasn't 50 living in his mum's basement, you know, didn't put Red or Dead Redemption down and then said, oh, yes, I saw a Bigfoot in my back garden. He wasn't like that. He worked for the government. And in the thing that he worked for the government, when I worked for the government, he had access to top secret stuff. So he's been through a lot of vetting in the same way as I had done. So I was interested in that. I thought, well, the guy's had to be cogent and mentally cogent, otherwise he wouldn't have his status, you know. Yeah. So I went to the place where he saw it, and he was a hard guy. He was a rugby player, Scottish rugby player, and he'd been a doorman. I mean, a tough guy. We got to the place where he saw it, and he just burst into tears. And he told me the story of how he'd seen this thing walking across. And for years, it had haunted him. He'd have nightmares about it until in the end, he contacted Cliff. And he spoke to him about it. This was up in Scotland. So I thought that was very interesting. So at first, if you analyze it objectively, you think, well, how can I see how this could exist and still remain a separate species? Yeah, because we know that Chris's ancestors would have got up to no good with it long ago. Yeah, just because that's it. But now, with that, I thought, well, there's somebody I consider to be a very credible witness who suffered because of it and brought me out here, and then broke down when he saw it. So I thought that was fascinating. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds fascinating. Then,
and I'm still friendly with the guy. I speak to him all the time. We became friends.
Do you have his contact?
Say again.
Do you have his contact?
Yeah. I spoke to him 2 days ago. Yeah.
Possibly another interviewee, Chris.
Yeah, well, he'd make a good interviewee if he'll do it. Yeah. I'll ask him.
Yeah, cool.
Say that sounds very, very intriguing. And say
I'll ask him if he'll do it. I don't know whether he will or not. But he might do. I mean, I don't know. I've never discussed it. I'll see what he says. I'll ask him. Next time I'll probably speak to him about a week or so. I'll give him a call there. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that would be amazing, Adam. Now, I cannot believe we've been going 43 minutes. That is crazy. Time has flown by.
Yeah, it's fun talking to you, Daniel. You're a nice young man. I like you. And it's nice to meet you too, Chris. Good man.
The Neanderthal blood, yeah.
But more me, Adam, more me.
Yes. Anyway, let's talk about how amazing Daniel is. There he was. When we got to Florida, he insisted on being carried in one of those chairs with 4 people. Carried him in. He was fanned. He only wanted peacock feathers to fan him throughout the entire performance. Yeah. And when he came off, he had to have chilled water with rose petals in it in order to cool himself down. And so demanding. Demanding young man.
The M&Ms with all the brown ones removed.
Absolutely. And he wanted his drink stirred anti-clockwise by the prettiest girl in there. It was really hard work. Really, we were exhausted with him.
Yeah, I've met him.
Right, Adam, me and you are having words after this podcast. So my last question for you, unless Chris has any more.
No, but we've just dipped our toe in the surface here. We really got to
part 2. I think part 2's coming.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, sure, guys. Whenever you want. I enjoy talking to you. It's pretty chill. I don't do many podcasts. because
we're special. It's because we are special.
I just don't want to be asked the same questions, but if you're asking different and quirky things, I'm kind of into it. So yeah, that'll do. Yeah, good. Cool.
So my last question for you, Adam, is what's next? Where are you going next? Where are you planning to adventure in the Bigfoot world?
Well, I'm always out. So I was in Cosby last week, which is down the road. Tomorrow I'll be out researching. I mean, one of the good things is literally at the moment I can be out in the woods in 40 minutes. I'll go to other places in the US, but I can go out and do a good day's research tomorrow and come back late at night. So I'll be out tomorrow. I'm always researching. I'll never give it up because it's as long as I can, because it's just so much fun and I get so much pleasure out of it. Not just the researching angle, but I like being in nature. I like being in nature, looking at nature, enjoying the beauty of the woods. I can't really lose. If you were going into this, I'm going to find Bigfoot tomorrow, I'm going to have the evidence, blah, 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 you're going to be very disappointed. You know what I mean? But if you're going to get bitter, unless you're completely deluded and you think that like the pure of heart must only speak to Bigfoot or whatever, and there you are. But you know, for me, I'm never losing because I'm always in the beauty of nature, which I love. So the moment I step foot into that, I'm happy. So I'm happy doing it. And if Bigfoot comes along, then it's a bonus. If it doesn't, then it's an adventure. And I've had wonderful times and incredible memories. I mean, some of the things I've seen and done, you know, I'm blessed to say no one has. Well, meet. You know, aside. Well, let me say this: I've done some amazing things. Some of the things I've done, I've been blessed to say that no one has ever done before. But the highlight of it has to be meeting you, Daniel. I mean, without that, I feel like my life is almost complete in that sense. It's been not only a pleasure, it's been a spiritual thing for me to meet you, Daniel, like the little demigod that you are.
Now you do have to be careful because Daniel has form talking about people's upcoming demise and the chance of them seeing Bigfoot before it comes.
So to everyone out there, me and Adam had a lot of fun at the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference, laughing about. I think we continued that on to tonight, and it's been amazing chatting to you, Adam. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, Daniel, and my pleasure talking to both of you. You as well, Chris. It's been nice to meet you.
Thanks, Adam. It's been brilliant. Yeah.
And I can definitely say, and Adam, if you're not if you're not out in the forest every day, we would love to do a part 2 with you at some point.
Oh yeah, no, cool. We'll do that for sure. Yeah,
Amazing.
We'll do that. I'm not in the forest every day, just most days. Today I needed a little bit of a chill, so I'm glad of it. But I'll be back out tomorrow. But no, it's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank
Amazing.
you.
So to everyone out there, thank you so much for listening in, and happy Sunday to you. So we will see you in we will see you in our next podcast. And we have don't forget, we have the Cryptid Conference UK coming up in July in 3.5 weeks. Myself and Chris are very excited for it. And we have some amazing new podcasts coming up. So click that subscribe button, click that like button, and we shall see you in the next podcast. Keep searching and stay mythical. Thank you so much, Adam and Chris.
Okay.